Association. I'm so happy that you're here today. Thank you so much for taking time to tune in. We have a really special episode today, meeting with Scott Katsma from Seattle Cider. So I hope that you'll really enjoy listening to what Scott has to tell us. I hope that you'll feel free to engage with us using that chat feature, which I've lit up here with a little bit of introduction to also introduce yourself if you'd like, or feel free to unmute yourself if you're on mute, which is kind of the default setting as you come in, and say hello. Let us know if you have questions and comments and feedback as we go. We have 3 libations, 3 beverages to move through today, and we're also going to get deep into the story of the people, place, and passion of Seattle cider. This has been such a fun journey. We started doing these virtual meetups back in April when everything was just blooming. The blossoms were just starting on the orchards. We were kind of in a state of uncertainty about what it would be like without being able to do in-person meetups, in-person happy hours, which so many of us really enjoy. And we thought we would be creative and figure out a way to connect virtually. And it's been really fun. We've had a lot of great sessions. We've had the opportunity to go from Boise down to Southern Oregon, up to beautiful British Columbia, to Vashon Island. We were in Corvallis last week with 2 towns. And so we've really had a chance to traipse across the Pacific Northwest virtually from the comfort and safety of your own living room or back patio or wherever you might be tuning in from, and meet lots of fantastic makers. It's been really amazing to hear what kind of makes people tick and to taste some great ciders and perries and other beverages with them. And I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. Thank all our makers for joining us. This is part of the work of the Northwest Cider Association. And I'll remind you at the end, but we are going to take a little summer hiatus, get outside, enjoy some of that beautiful weather, and then we'll come back. So definitely stay tuned for that update. Without any further ado, though, in the can fortress, the can hideout, the can fantastic space here is my friend Scott. He's tuning in from Seattle, and I'm going to go ahead and pin your video. Scott, it's so nice to see you.
Hey, Jenna. Thanks for hosting these again. These have been so cool to get to know and visit some new places. Really awesome.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in and for all the amazing work that you have done in the cider world. You work with Seattle, and Seattle Cider is a name that is almost a household name in the world of cider.
Hey, Jenna, I think you froze. I'm not sure what's going on.
Oh, we lost her.
Oh, no.
Scott, you're on your own.
I know. No, I'm just going to have to go.
I'll interview you. Tell us about Seattle Cider, Scott.
Wait, you didn't give me an introduction, though. Jenna was right in the middle of her introduction.
You want accolades?
No.
Oh, she's back. Oh, you're on mute now, Jenna. Oh.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I lost you. Can you?
No worries.
You all didn't fall away, though, so you're still here. Okay. You froze for me, and then I was gone. But hi.
Hi, welcome back.
Thank you. Did we start on cider yet?
No, I think that's a good idea. First, we're going to be tasting the Marionberry. So if you have this, go ahead and crack that. I know Jeff's got a pineapple agave in front of him, but otherwise, whatever you have. I know Chris and Val are drinking some homebrew. Yeah, so this is our Marionberry cider, which is our summer seasonal right now. This is the first year it's been our summer seasonal. And before that was pineapple agave last summer, but that went year round. And previous to pineapple agave, it was berry rosé, and that also went year round. So I'm hoping that Marionberry will be around as the summer seasonal for the next couple of years, so that we don't have to keep just reinventing our summer seasonal every single year. But this is our normal blend of apples that we use for all of our ciders in a can. 100% Washington apples blended with Marionberries from both Washington and Oregon. So cheers, everybody. Happy Thursday. I think we lost Jana again.
I think you're right. Oh, and she's back.
Cheers, Jana. Cool. Well, I'll just start talking about Seattle Cider Company. We, very similar to Two Towns last week, we have our origins in craft beer. We're sister companies with Two Beers Brewing, which was founded in 2007. And then we launched Seattle Cider Company in 2013. So we're going to be celebrating our 7th anniversary here coming up in August. A very good friend of mine who was working for Two Beers Brewing at the time. He wrote the business plan for Seattle Cider Company, and then shortly after there asked me to come help him make cider. So I've been here a little over 6 years now, and worked my way up slowly from lead cider maker to head cider maker to director of fermentation and innovation. So now it feels like we're constantly shifting and trying to wear as many hats as possible. But most recently, I've been focusing on quality and R&D. So that's my current role. I was hoping to have some of our cider making team here with me today, but they, for a variety of reasons, weren't able to make it. So you're stuck with just me and no Jana, apparently.
Do you not see me? I'm right here.
No, you're back.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry about that. Scott, you're such good company. How many cider makers are working with you right now? I know we were going to maybe chat with Elliot, and I know that you've got a few folks on your team, so it's exciting that you've grown.
Yeah, so Elliot's our head cider maker, and then Monique is our lead cider maker, and Derek is our assistant cider maker. So there's currently 3 cider makers working their tails off in the trenches every single day, making all this lovely cider. But the team is, there's a lot of people that you don't see as well. It definitely takes a village, all the way from our packaging team to marketing and everyone working in our tasting room and sales. So
yeah, you guys definitely also cover a pretty sizable footprint. I know you're the first cidery there in Seattle since Prohibition, and you guys have kind of like championed this amazing mission to get that taste of Washington fruit out into the world in a really accessible way.
Yeah, totally. When we started Seattle Cider Company, like you said, we were the first cidery in Seattle since Prohibition. And really, we wanted to make a cider. We saw a large gap on the grocery store shelves. There wasn't really anything dry, like an English pub cider on the shelves. And we wanted to, we basically made the cider that we wanted to drink. And that's where we got our roots. And then slowly started to distribute to more and more states. And now we're in 19 states with the mission to bring quality craft Washington cider that is on the drier side to the country. So we've been at that ever since 2013.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Congratulations on coming up on your anniversary. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
And I know in a lot of the states where I would work in the past as a sales rep, I would see Seattle on the shelves and on the taps, and it was always such a wonderful feeling to feel that Pacific Northwest kind of home represented there. And it was such a great place where people often intersected with cider, like for the first time in a really meaningful way. Like I can't say how many people were kind of maybe not sure about cider, maybe cider curious, and then they would encounter Seattle cider, and it would be something that they could really find an inroad to in terms of accessibility if it was maybe the dry cider. But you guys have been making a lot of really cool things, like this beautiful seasonal right now, the Marionberry. Like this is such a great nod to the regional fruit. And you have, I was looking today on the site, like at least almost probably 20 different things. So you have not stopped with just that kind of dry vision. You've not only opened up the gate to like, here's how you can get introduced to cider, but holy smokes, a lot of different cool things that you're innovating.
Yeah, and not only at the grocery store shelf level, but when we started Seattle Cider Company, the only cider option really in any of the bars in Seattle, it was very common for the bar to have one cider handle, and it was almost always Angry Orchard. And they really did pave the way for the craft cider community. But it was also a really easy sell for us because it was like, how about something craft? How about something a little bit drier, made from real ingredients and fresh juice, grown here in Washington. And that's a pretty easy sell actually across the country because Washington's known for its bounty of apples, you know, and Seattle, it immediately makes sense for people that would be associated with Washington apples. Yeah, and so we've basically just been making ciders that are trying to push people towards that drier side and away from the mass-produced ciders made from concentrate.
And now you're in your arsenal of cans here, and Val and Chris are wondering, where are you? And are you behind? Are they all full cans behind you? So maybe you can give us a little background on where you're located. I love your fort.
Yeah, I'm actually in our warehouse on our brewery side. So our production facility, like I said, we're sisters companies with a brewery, and so we actually store all of our cans in the warehouse on that side. But I'll walk around and show you here in a minute the actual cidery. But yeah, these are all empty cans. So these are full pallets of just empty cans that end up getting put into a depalletizer and then onto the canning line and filled, and then onto another pallet of finished products. So
that's so great. Yeah, it's fun to see those all opened up that way, and it obviously makes for a really fantastic backdrop. Is there work happening in the background there?
There's not. Most everyone's gone home for the weekend, actually.
Okay,
so
yeah. Well,
production facility is pretty quiet now.
Yeah, we're at the beginning of the long weekend, so thanks for sure. Extra thanks for tuning in with us and being willing to do this today. I know part of the celebration of cider that the American Cider Association has leaned into has been that Pick Cider campaign that's been around cider for the 4th of July and cider for Thanksgiving. And those are kind of a couple really great benchmark holidays. And so you've got a lot of really great stuff that really lends itself towards drinking 4th of July, drinking outside, drinking at the river, like something that's super nice and light and refreshing and bright. Those seem like it's a perfect fit. So it seems like it's the perfect episode for us to celebrate 4th of July with going into this.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So we're working through Marionberry, which is super amazing and delicious. And this is your newest release. I know that I fell off the call, but did you say how soon it just came out? I know it was your new seasonal.
Yeah. We just started distributing this in, I think it was around sometime in early May.
Yeah. How has it been releasing a new item during this time with the pandemic? Has that been something that's gone pretty well? Has it been challenging?
It's been pretty tough.
Yeah.
And this isn't the only new product that we've tried to release during, the whole pandemic, but it's more than just the pandemic too. We don't really want to we don't really feel it's appropriate to be taking up space right now on social media when there's so many other important voices to be listening to and trying to both sit and learn as much as possible and take in as much as possible. And it doesn't really seem appropriate to be out there right now trying to add noise, with new releases. So it's definitely something that we've had to just kind of take a step back and slow down a little bit. And I'm definitely not envious of our marketing team, but Mara does an awesome job being sensitive to all of those things, and it's being well received. So
yeah, I'm so glad you said that. I definitely personally and then professionally feel that as well. You guys are, I think as a team, very sensitive and thoughtful. I think it's a good time for all of us to collectively take some pause and look at the larger landscape and see, where our voices are and where we can be quieter and what we can help amplify. So thank you for calling that out for sure. That's super wise. Yeah. You tell me, we don't have to rush it through, but I'm curious if you want to take this into the next thing or if you want to take us on a little tour around at your leisure.
Let's move into the next beverage here. The next thing we're going to be tasting is our sparkling Meyer lemon, which is a new line of products for us. We released this sparkling line back in April. And it's basically our cider answer to the seltzer craze. So we saw what was happening in seltzer, and we've never really made a low ABV cider before. So all of our ciders from the beginning of Seattle Cider Company have been 6.5 or higher. So we've never really made anything lower than that. So this is our first kind of jump into lower ABV cider. And then also kind of piggybacking on the seltzer craze, which calls out certain key elements like low carb, low sugar, low calorie. The only difference is that instead of a seltzer, this is made from the same apples, same cider base that we make all of our ciders from. So just like our dry or semi-sweet, all of our seasonals, this is 100% Washington apples at 4.2% alcohol by volume in a nice, sleek, slim can. So we're trying to appeal to those people who are drawn to something a little lower calorie, while at the same time using the same real quality ingredients that we use for all of our ciders. So this is, we launched with a Meyer lemon and then blood orange. And then just last month for Pride Month, we released papaya, which you'll see up here. And papaya is actually, it's been so well received that it's actually going year round. So that'll move into the lineup with the other two.
That's so fun. I saw the papaya and thought that looked amazing. I love the sleek packaging, and for sure this kind of like seems to stick with, you know, on brand, like Pacific Northwest, get out and hike and bike and kayak and be active. And, you know, when you get to the top of the mountain, you want to have something, but maybe you don't need something heavy. You want something that you can pack in, something that you can pack out. So this is a fantastic option for that. It also makes me really feel like we're in summer officially.
Yeah, totally. Yep, it's really refreshing, and it's just so much better than seltzer too. That's the thing that, you know, like as a team, like we actually would love drinking it. It drinks like a cider. It's just a lot lighter, more refreshing, and not only are our other ciders higher in ABV, but they're all in 16-ounce cans. You know, so this is also a smaller serving size and something that is a little more sessionable, approachable. Like you said, if you're outside in the summer being active, it's a really perfect occasion for that.
And so good for cider cocktails if you are going the other direction and you want to make it. Emily's nodding at me, yes. I saw that there was a recommendation, you know, put it on ice. And I've really seen a lot of energy around people getting so creative and innovative in that category. And these, you know, with the lower ABV and the really refreshing styles, it's like the sky is the limit in terms of creativity there. You have a lot of opportunity to play, put them on ice and start to just play with lots of different combinations and see what is kind of to your palate. So that's the fun thing to dive into as well with these. I love that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we had originally, we were going to be distributing it in kegs as well, so that bars could make cider cocktails with them as well. But then in the midst of all of the coronavirus shutdowns, we decided just to stick with it in cans for right now. So
that makes a lot of sense. It's definitely been a tough time for draft. So yeah, beautiful.
Yep. All right, should we take a walk real quick and check out the cidery?
Yeah, we'd love to.
All right, so here, like I said, I was on the brewery side, but now we're walking over into the cidery.
Super fun. We're riveted.
So
I'm like leaning in.
This is our cidery. Our tasting room is located in the front half of this that you can't really see right now. But back here is our warehouse. And then this is actually our cider. We call this the tank pad, but this is where actually all of our fermentation is happening. These tanks on the end here are all 200 barrel tanks. So roughly 6,000 gallons. And so we are very similar to a craft brewery. We're producing cider every 2 weeks. So it's a very commercial brewing scale. And we borrowed a lot of things from the craft beer industry. Like I said, the brewery that is our sister company was started before the Cider Company. And so when we started the Cider Company, we were borrowing a lot of the same equipment, same pumps, same tanks. And that really like kind of guided us when we started making cider. So we're receiving fresh pressed apple juice from the Yakima Valley every single week and pumping it straight off of a tanker into these tanks and then pitching yeast, and those will start fermenting within 12 hours. And then we're off and running. 10 to 12 days later, we're filtering it into a bright tank, and then we're prepping it for packaging. And from there, it goes straight into a can or a keg. So like I said, these are all fermentation tanks, fermenters. And this is where our cider makers are on a daily basis, making cider. And then as we go this way, this is our packaging area. So these tanks up along this wall here, these are the same size, roughly 6,000 gallons. And these are our bright tanks. So this is where the cider is getting filtered into. And then directly in front of me here, this is our canning line. So those empty pallets of cans that I was sitting in front of go into this machine. And then they're automatically put onto this conveyor. And then they go into this. This is actually the canning line right here. So you can see some cans in here from today's run. And then they're lidded and seamed and put into the 4-pack cartons. And then at the very end here, you'll see then they're off-packed on this table and put onto a pallet. So from today's run, there's roughly 25 pallets here of finished cider. So they can, through this canning line, they can do roughly a little more than a half of one of these tanks.
That's awesome. It's so beautiful and shiny and obviously really streamlined and efficient. You're doing some like really good volumes and making it really clean. I love the bottling line, the canning line process. This is so great. You have 3 canning lines, is that right?
Yeah, we do. So this canning line here that you're looking at is solely for cider and solely for 16-ounce cans.
Okay.
So before we installed this canning line, we were using canning lines that we had to switch over whenever we were doing different formats of cans. So if we were doing, and then, sorry, these tanks here are also fermenters. Yeah, so we were having to switch over the canning line between, like the shorter 12-ounce cans and then the sleek, the smaller 12-ounce cans for seltzer and sparkling, and then also for the 16-ounce tall boys. And to switch over between all of those different can sizes, can take anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. So we were losing like a whole,
Wow.
we were losing a whole day of production.
Yeah.
Just switching between all of those different can sizes. So
Yeah.
putting in that new canning line really saved us a lot of time because we're able to can cider every single day, and we streamlined it just for that 16-ounce can. And our operation looks a lot different than a lot of other cideries, mostly because we're distributing 80% of the cider we make on an annual basis in a can. So last year we did close to 1 million gallons of cider in a year, and 80% of that left in a can. A lot of that is because we are distributed outside of Washington, so most of the consumption isn't necessarily happening, like you said, in a bar. It's people picking it up on the grocery store shelf, but it's also because the brand that we've built is, like you said, we have a lot of brand equity from the actual design, and the can itself is pretty recognizable. And so even in our outside markets, a lot of bars even bring in the cans to sell instead of having it on draft. Because when people see the logo, they're able to see the can, and it says Seattle cider in there. Instead of just drinking something that's relatively like clear in a pint glass, it has no brand recognition. So we've been also very fortunate during the pandemic to not necessarily have that affect a large portion of our sales, because yes, we are missing out on that on-premise bar consumer, but we also are still producing 80% of our normal volume, and the off-premise, the grocery store, has actually gone up a little bit. So
that's so insightful. That was such a beautiful tour. I appreciate you taking us on that. I felt like that was like, it was so illuminative, and it's that's not really a word, illuminating. Anyway, it's great to kind of get a real visual on what it takes to produce something in kind of a larger scale. And we've, you know, over the course of the last many weeks, we've been able to see a lot of different business models and a lot of different strategies. And I know, I know that sort of from my life knowing you and from my life knowing Seattle Cider, what we've talked about, you know, really getting that taste of the Pacific Northwest out there across the country, and changing people's minds or opening their minds or expanding their palates is kind of really part of the mission, which is so great. We've had a little side banter going in the chat here about in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Lost Valley, if anyone's ever been there, is a great little cider bar, and they do love Seattle cider. Chandra and her father, they're just amazing humans, and they always have Seattle cider there, and they love to, like you said, feature the cans. I mean, they also will do it on draft, but they have the cans in stock so that people can take them home, they can drink them there. That presence across the country is super great. Val and Chris definitely appreciate, and I'm sure they're not alone, that you're keeping the lines separate to avoid any kind of cross-contamination, gluten contamination. We have a question about the cans, and I want to go back and ask you the question about the turmeric as well. I'll ask you the quick one, I think, here, Scott, is, does the tall 12-ounce can use the same line as the 16-ounce can? I think you said they're on two different canning lines. Is that right?
they're on two different canning lines. Yep.
Okay. And then turmeric, yes, right? You're taking it as a supplement, Emily. So like total bonus that it's in the cidery. What inspired you guys to use turmeric in your turmeric cider, which is tangerine and turmeric?
Yeah. Man.
No pressure. I mean.
Well, in the summers, I used to work for a local fresh pressed juice company, and we'd get up in the middle of the night and start pressing juice and then deliver it across Seattle for people who are doing juice fasts, or we'd deliver to a lot of yoga studios and stuff like that. And for our, I think it was our 4th anniversary, I used to blend one of their juices and made our anniversary cider, and it was like carrots and turmeric, and it was just so beautiful. And that was the original inspiration for that turmeric cider. And you know, it is a little polarizing for some people who aren't familiar with turmeric. It's really earthy and comes off slightly spicy, almost bell peppery. But we absolutely love it. The first trial batch that we did of that cider, the employees drank it all before we could actually do any testing with it. And that's kind of when we knew that we were going to want to put that in a can and get that in more people's hands. So
that's the best market research possible. Like when the team is like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
So
it doesn't get
I was
better.
That's a funny story, because I was actually I had a keg of our first batch of tangerine turmeric we have employee taps where we have like seltzer, sparkling water, and then different like small batch trial stuff. So I had it on those taps, and I was worried that we were going to run out of it because the employees were drinking so much of it. And so I took it off the tap, and when I came back the next day, it was hooked up again. And so I went to our CEO at the time, and I was so frustrated. I was like, someone hooked it back up. You know, I had taken it off and like marked on it, don't touch. And he was like, "Oh, that was me. I took like 2 growlers home of it last night." And that was when we kind of fast tracked that cider.
That's a great story. It's so
Yeah.
good. Turmeric is so good. It's so good when you get the health benefits with your cider. I mean, you can't go wrong there, you know.
Right. Yep.
And Kat was wondering if there's any functional reasons to choose the tall 12 ounce if it's just marketing. That's a great question, Kat. I'm just going to go ahead and say that these are really sexy, but is it just because they're really sexy and beautiful, or is there like a functional component? I mean, is it like getting into the tiny grid in the shelf spot, like get out of the way, I'm going to elbow this little thing in, or what do you think? Do you guys choose it for marketing, or do you choose it because there's a functional reason or some hybrid?
Yeah, not necessarily functional. I think it's primarily marketing. But like I said, we're trying to appeal to those people who are drawn to seltzer, right? And that's why we have a couple call outs on that can too. You know, it's very clear when you look at it that it's 4.2% alcohol by volume, that's 2 carbs,
Grams.
2 grams of carbs, and
Yeah.
2 grams of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the slim can, I think, and 94 calories right there in the middle.
Yeah, up front and center.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's mostly to appeal to those people who would normally reach for a seltzer. We're just trying to elevate that category a little bit, and hopefully help them experience cider for the first time and move in that direction.
So great. Sally and Kristen said they really like it's in the smaller cans versus the 750 milliliter. Yeah, it's true. Like sometimes you commit to like a full volume and it's a lot, right? You're like, okay, this is a big commitment. And something about your product line that I love is that you check a lot of different boxes. You know, you have the 750 milliliters on the limited releases. You've got the 16 ounce cans on the sort of seasonal all year. And then you've got these like kind of slim sleek on the sparkling of the seltzers. And so it's kind of a different, you know, there's different niches for different markets, and it's great to kind of experiment. I feel like cider is, forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but I think we're still defining it. So, you know, we're always experimenting and kind of touching people. And, you know, a lot of us have talked about how we're trying to bring in people from different categories: beer drinkers, wine drinkers, hard liquor drinkers, traditional seltzer drinkers. Like we're trying to capture different people from different places. So it's great to kind of, you know, cast a wide net and see where that lands. I know that we have another cider to drink. I know we have more to talk about, but I do just want to call out, Scott, really quickly that with the 3 canning lines and with the production that you guys have done, I feel like it's really worth acknowledging the anchoring that you have done to help other cideries along in their journey. Some of the bigger cideries, bigger in our, you know, category, a little bit more well-established, have really done a lot of tremendous work, and Seattle Cider is, you know, really up on the top of the list here among them in terms of helping people navigate what does it look like to set up our structure, or how can we streamline it. Not to mention like actual talents and staff who've kind of come through the ranks of Seattle Cider and maybe gone into the rest of the world. But I just think that, you know, noting the sort of the community mindedness, and we could talk about that, you know, as we get into the next cider and how it kind of relates to, you know, giving back to the community. But I think it really behooves us to acknowledge that, you know, we've trended through a lot of cideries and said that, you know, the community is still growing, it's still small, it's still evolving. Community is the thread, and it takes a lot of hands to rise that up, and not everyone has the capital or the know-how to kind of get things going. And you guys have been extremely generous with that, and I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. So
yeah, wow, thank you. That's really nice. One of our main values is collaboration. And while sometimes feel like we're banging our heads up against the wall constantly, we've also learned a lot of lessons. Like, one of my favorite parts of my job is the constant learning that is happening, but then also being able to share that and helping helping the cider industry continue to press onward and grow. And it's really exciting. And even like, say for that canning line that you saw, like even helping those manufacturers that would otherwise be only have experience in the craft beer industry, helping them think more about how can we design and make equipment that's even more targeted towards the cider industry. And it's all a lot of fun, and we have a really awesome facilities staff here who are constantly trying to make us more efficient. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. The collaboration bit, like you said, is probably the coolest, funnest part about the cider industry, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And my friend Brent Miles, who wrote the business plan for Seattle Cider Company, he is a cider consultant. He has a business, Brown Hat Consulting. So if you're looking to start a cider company, that's kind of, I definitely feel like sharing is a part of the ethos of the cider community. So.
For sure. And it's so great if we don't have to recreate the wheel every time, and we can benefit from the learning, the challenges, the fumbles, the champion takeaways, and we're so much the better. So yeah, I think it's just really fantastic. I know a lot of folks, like I said, have come through the ranks there and maybe gone into other projects, and also in terms of like a really functional back end, it's really nice to be able to share that resource. And I know you guys also open up that space quite a bit to people to do all kinds of events and, host different things happening. And that might not be the case at this moment, but it's nice to have a hub like that. That's part of your grounding and your sense of place in Seattle and maybe largely in the community. I'm excited to drink this. My husband Tim is on the call. He's ignoring us, but he already took half of the cider out of it. So there he is. He's the guy with all the beer posters on the ceiling. So anyway, was that a good segue?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think,
so
Steph? You still there? we got a few of you on camera.
We definitely try and cultivate a work environment around innovation. And like you said, we're just constantly trying to innovate, not only with that turmeric, but with the sparkling, and just trying to be as creative as possible. But we also like to get back to our roots a little bit. And this City Fruit Cider, the last one that we're drinking, this is definitely a passion project of mine. We work with the nonprofit, which is actually called City Fruit here in Seattle. They harvest fruit from trees both on city land and private land in the city of Seattle. And while the majority of it goes to local food banks, there's a certain percentage of their harvest that actually is undonatable, usually because it's not ideal for consumption, or it's touched the ground. So here in the US, unlike European countries like Dave was talking about last week that let their apples fall and hit the orchard floor, here in the US, because our apple growing industry is so targeted towards the grocery store, the consumer market for fresh eating apples, if those apples hit the ground at all, they actually can't be even donated to a food bank. So everything that they're unable to donate, they actually bring to us, and we press it here in-house and ferment this cider every single year. We started back with them in 2015, and the blend of apples is different every single year because it's wherever they're picking in the city. And while there are some larger orchards in the city, it just comes from a random collection of people's fruit trees. And then we ferment this cider and release it once a year, and then give a proceeds back to help grow their annual harvest, and they actually have been growing an insane amount over the past few years and expanding into new neighborhoods and helping some of the more marginalized communities here in Seattle. And it's really awesome just that they're just doing some great stuff, and we absolutely love the cider. But it's also one of the only times in the year that we get to take an apple from start to finish. You know, like I said, we're receiving apple juice, usually on a tanker truck in the form of like 8,000 gallons. So to be able to actually receive the apples from City Fruit and then press it and ferment it, this is really exciting cider for us, and helps also educate our team on a much more in-depth level. So this is one of the ciders that we release in a more traditional style of cider making. We're maturating it all year long and then releasing it once a year. And this is very similar to a lot of our other ciders that we put into bottle, or this more like limited edition release. We also make single varietals every year, from Wine Sap, Gravenstein. Last year we did some Crimson Gold, which is a small crab apple, some Golden Russet, and leading up to our 7th anniversary next month, we're going to be releasing every 7 days for our 7th anniversary. Every 7 days, we're going to release a new single varietal, actually in the slim can format. Very similar to the sparkling, but it's going to be single varietals. This year we have Ashmead's Kernel, a red flesh apple called Red Wave, Jonathan, and the last one is slipping my mind.
It's a mystery.
I can't believe I can't remember right now.
Well, you'll remember in a minute. And in the meantime, this is so awesome. I love the City Fruit. It's so delicious. 40 different varieties. It's so awesome.
Yeah, and it's different every year. They just bring us apples. I think our largest harvest from them was around 9 tons in 2016. That was probably the largest harvest we've got from them. But even like looking at the bins, you know, there's probably 30 to 40 different varietals all in every single bin that we're pressing. And it really it brings new meaning to the Seattle Cider Company, because it's literally Seattle cider. Yeah, it's really fun. We haven't actually released our 2018 cider yet. We're going to be doing that hopefully in September, and then the blend from last year is going to be a little after that, probably in November. This year we actually partnered with a local artist as well, who created an original art piece that we're going to be also auctioning to give to City Fruit. And then the labels on the bottles are actually going to be different pieces from that original piece of artwork. So you can buy 3 to 4 bottles and have the whole piece of art. So it's going to be really fun. I'm really excited about that.
Is the last one Wine Sap? That's what.
Yes. Yep. That's the last one. Thanks, Ian.
Good. Thanks, Ian. Good job.
Ian's actually our tasting room manager.
Ian,
so
you're awesome.
If he wants to unmute himself, he can. But no pressure, Ian. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for lending your insight, Ian. You're more than welcome to chime in if you want to. You don't have to, though, if you don't want to. Larry suggested, how about a cider switchel? One of my favorites is a ginger turmeric. Yeah, I bet that would be really awesome, Larry.
Totally.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ian. Nice to see you.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Good. Do you want to say hi? You want me to pin you for a minute? You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Ian Joyce. I'm the tasting room manager down at the Woods. So yeah, the place where everybody gets to hang out and enjoy all of our fabulous ciders and beers from our 2 companies. But yeah, I just jumped on this call. I wanted to see what was going on. This is great.
You're awesome. And you're probably the perfect guy to tell us, give us the current 411 on what the Woods status is. So if people want to see you, don't come, do come. Could you? Would you?
Yeah. Things have been changing every day.
Yeah,
as we all
sure.
So right now we're at the current phase 2. So we are having 50% seating inside and outside. And luckily for us down there, we do have a patio, which is awesome right now. Yeah, so right now we're just 5 people per table, order at the bar. It's pretty much how it was originally, just a little more spaced out. Yeah, it's going well though. It's great to see people in there again.
I'm just going to say, as somebody who's gone out a few times in my neck of the woods down here in Clackamas County, Oregon, that every server, every bartender, every bar manager, everybody who's working right now, thank you. It is an extra layer of cleaning and conscientiousness and patience and trying to just really work through it and reconfigure systems that already were worked in a certain way and now have to be reworked in another way. Thank you so much for your work. It's really valuable. When I had my first pint in public, I might have busted a little bit of a tear. I was like, oh, it's so nice to be here. So at my local cidery. So thank you for your hard work and your team's hard work to make it possible.
Thank you so much. We've done a great job, and I'm proud to say that during all this, we have never had let anybody go. Everybody's been employed the entire time, and I have a great staff. I'm really happy to have them.
That is magic. You're amazing. Okay, fantastic. Awesome.
It's also a really cool place to try new ciders that you can't find anywhere else. And right now, Ian, do we have 14 ciders on?
Right now we have 16.
Yeah. And so it's a really cool place to come, even if you don't feel comfortable yet staying and sitting down and having a drink. You can still get a growler fill or pick up packaged product. And I think we put on a brand new cider just yesterday that has never been on in the tasting room before. A really cool cider that our cider team worked on, which is a blend of cherry juice and cola nut. So definitely embodying the spirit of innovation in the tasting room, and can always constantly try some of the new ciders that we have to offer. So.
And that spirit of innovation is so key to the work that you guys have done. I mean, you can see it through so many of these great flavor profiles. Jeff needs your shirt. It's amazing. What size is it? Is it sold online? And what's your favorite single varietal? Scott, we love you. Tell us more.
Well, I wish actually that I could show you the artwork, but I was told that I couldn't. But they're going to be the most beautiful labels. Before Ian, our previous tasting room manager, who's been with the company over 9 years, I think. He's now our internal graphic designer, and he does most of our design work for both of our companies. And he's built some incredible labels for these single varietals. They're so beautiful. But my favorite, I think, has got to be, well, it's really hard.
It's like picking a favorite kid, right? Which
right?
kid gets to go with you to the circus? The rest have to stay home. No, it can just be your favorite for the day, okay?
Yeah, the Ashmead's Kernel. It was my first time working with that varietal specifically, and it is just so lovely. It's very approachable. It has very distinct flavors of both fresh and fermented apples. With a slight little phenolic, tannic astringency at the end. So it's really quite nice, but very, very light and refreshing as well. So, and that's, I think, what was surprising to me the most, how sessionable it was, even as a single varietal.
so good to get to geek out on the single varietals and really like learn what they taste like and see what they contribute. I love that.
And even the history of the apple. I mean, the Ashmead's kernel is a really old apple that dates back to the early 1700s in England. I mean, if the name didn't speak for itself, but and just to learn about the history of apples is also really fun.
Yeah, always, for sure. There's so much good knowledge to be gained there. Tell us, I know, I'll just spoiler alert that you guys have a lot of amazing gear. Is what you're wearing available? I know there's some cool mirror growlers, there's hats, there's shirts. You guys have a really robust online clothing and merch section. So what about the one you're wearing?
This
and
is
what
actually
size is it, right, Jeff? Is it medium? I think he's medium. What do you, small?
Small or medium?
It's a medium.
A medium.
But this is actually not available for sale. But we have an awesome retail store inside of the Woods tasting room that has a lot of different custom, not only apparel, but growlers and thermoses and mugs and hats and everything. So
All right, I'll have to drive up.
Yeah, clearly, and online. So if people don't have the ability to do that, there's a lot of great stuff online for sure. I saw that.
Yeah.
I even saw it was online with Facebook, right? Too. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Scott, can we ask, is the cider room separate from the beer tasting?
So the Woods tasting room is actually the tasting room for both the brewery and the cidery. And because of that, it's actually 21 and over because cider is technically a wine. So to be a wine tasting room and a brewery tasting room, it's actually, we have to have a tavern license unless we had a kitchen. And there's actually a food truck that services our tasting room. But since we don't own the kitchen ourselves, we unfortunately have a tavern license. So it's 21 and over, but dog friendly.
Okay. I think they're really focused in on the gluten. Any gluten cross contamination is probably where like that kind of questioning is, right?
Yeah, I can't even be in the same space as a brewery.
So probably tell me, Scott, if you think otherwise. I think pickup elsewhere might be the best option for them.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Oh my gosh. See, like it was just 5 o'clock and now it's just almost 6 o'clock. Scott, you're amazing. Ian, thanks for jumping in. Thank you guys for being here. It's sunny outside. It's the Pacific Northwest. We've all been locked indoors for a really long time. And it seems like people have been itching to get out a little bit. So I am incredibly grateful. The Northwest Cider Association is incredibly grateful. I'm sure Seattle Cider is incredibly grateful that you're willing to tune in. We have been recording all of these videos, all of these sessions, and they're up on our YouTube channel, which we didn't have before pandemic, but now we do. So if you hop on over to YouTube and you check out Northwest Cider Association, all of the episodes, all of the sessions that we've done so far are all there. So you can absolutely catch up on anybody you missed. You can rewatch anything that you might want to rewatch. And if you are not already signed up for our newsletter, please, please, please do sign up for it so that we can send you the update on when we go back into this great programming. We've learned some things, so we'll come back better, smarter, sleeker, faster. Jeff is on our board of directors. He knows we're working it all out here.
As is Scott.
As is Scott. Scott, you do everything. You're so amazing. And I just want to say that Seattle Cider has a plethora of amazing retail spots, so you should absolutely pick up. I know I have to try the papaya. I definitely want to go like seek out the tangerine turmeric now. There's just a whole bunch of wonderful things. The basil mint is like one of their go-tos. There's a lot of amazing things if you haven't had them or if you've had them and you need to restock on them. Retail, online, pick up at the Woods. There's lots of places, and I please support this amazing company. Help us to keep cider vibrant in our community. Scott, what did we miss?
Also, thanks to the pandemic, we're now on Vino Shipper. So even if you're in a state where we aren't distributed, you can still order our cider online. And then we just started doing free delivery here in Seattle as well.
You did.
We did. So that's another thing, just trying to change and grow with the pandemic. So our sales team, who otherwise would be calling on accounts, has some extra more space, and we're offering free delivery here. If you live in the Seattle area, that's an option. But yeah, thank you, Jana, so much for everything you do for cider and for the Northwest Cider Association. And thanks so much for coming. Hope everyone has a good holiday weekend.
Yeah, let's have a cheers.
Yeah.
You guys, stay well, stay safe. Scott, thank you. All of you, thank you so much. It's been so fun, and we'll come back with more. Be healthy, keep yourself safe, so we can have another cider another day, right? Cheers.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks,
Great
guys.
job, Scott. Thanks.